Hello and welcome to the Gaggle What We Challenge. And if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli, and I just want to record a short video about recent developments in Germany. As you know, and we've recorded a few podcasts about this, Germany recently had elections in two states that comprise the former German Democratic Republics in Thuringia and in Saxony. The Alternative für Deutschland Party came in first in Thuringia and very close second in Saxony. And there's another election that is scheduled for, I think, September the 22nd in Brandenburg, which of course comprises Berlin. And again, the Alternative für Deutschland Party is expected to do well. Currently, it's leading in the polls, and that would be particularly humiliating because Berlin has always been known as the base for the Social Democrats. Historically, it was always run by the Social Democrats, going all the way back into the 19th century. So a humiliating defeat there at the hands of the Alternative for Deutschland would be very, very humiliating for Chancellor Olaf Scholz. So the German political establishment is in absolute panic about what's going on, the rise of the AfD, and then alongside the rise of the leftist populist movement, the Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, and together this left and right populism is really threatening to upend the German political scene. So obviously there are many reasons for the collapse of the German political establishment. I think German deindustrialization, the Germany having to pay for its energy at exorbitant prices, a German manufacturing industry moving out of Germany is giving rise to a great deal of anxiety among Germans as to where's their country going, because of course Germany has been the economic powerhouse of Europe for decades. Its manufacturing industry is second to none, has a huge reputation all over the world. And if Germany is going to start losing its markets, then Germany will not be able to sustain its comfortable, prosperous lifestyle, which it's been justifiably proud for decades. So high energy costs and losing its market share in China in particular, this is all giving rise to a great deal of concern among Germans. And on top of that is the issue of migration. And ever since Angela Merkel threw open the doors of Germany to migrants from the Middle East and Africa, Germany has been inundated by immigrants. This has given rise to a crime wave. And on top of this crime wave, there's basically the German women are increasingly feeling insecure because many of the men come from, countries that have very different attitudes to the relationship between men and women, and have very different attitudes to the way women should comport themselves in public. And so when they come to Germany and see, as they see in the rest of Europe, women, just wearing, very, minimal amount of clothing in the summer, they naturally think that this is an opportunity for a, help yourself. So I think German women have been complaining bitterly that they no longer feel safe in their own country. And on top of that, we had, something like 1 million migrants from Ukraine coming into Germany. So this again has put a great deal of strain on German public services, because as with these so-called asylum seekers from Africa and the Middle East, they basically get to stay indefinitely in Germany and get to collect from the quite generous German welfare state. So clearly something needs to be done, and the recent murder of 3 bystanders in Solingen at no less than a diversity festival, a festival to celebrate diversity, by an asylum seeker from Syria, an asylum seeker who had repeatedly been rejected for asylum by one court after another, but who had nonetheless not been deported, was really the final straw. It obviously culminated in the very good results for the AfD and for the Sarah Wagenknecht's party. But now, obviously, the German political establishment feel that it needs to do something. It can't just be a free-for-all with asylum seekers coming to Germany, because that's the way the asylum system works in Europe. You go to Bulgaria, say, you apply for asylum in Bulgaria, but who the hell wants to stay in Bulgaria when they can go to Germany, which is much more prosperous and has a nice welfare system? So essentially, migrants make their way across Europe to Germany, and this just puts a great deal of strain upon the Germans, and now clearly the public is absolutely fed up with this, and the German government needs to respond. And so how it's responded is it said, we are closing the border. In other words, effectively, we're bringing to an end the Schengen visa-free travel zone that has dominated Europe now for several decades, which means that you can just travel across the countries of the EU without a visa. And so Germany said, that's it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to have people coming in and just basically just living here. And we don't really want, Ukrainians who apply for refugee status, but who nonetheless feel free to go back home to Ukraine, spend time with their friends and family, and then, come back to Germany to collect their welfare checks. So that's what Germany said, that's it, we're going to do it. We're bringing to an end what they call irregular migration. It's not clear exactly what they mean by it, but I think it's that the whole asylum application racket will be brought to an end. Now, you can well say, I'll believe it when I see it, and that one should indeed take all of these pledges with a pinch of salt, because countless European countries have made these pledges before. Oh no, we're definitely going to bring illegal immigration to an end. We're just going to close our borders. We can't have this anymore. And then, of course, nothing very much happens. But nonetheless, this latest move from the German government, this is the leftish German government, the traffic light coalition government, has elicited an absolute uproar across Europe. So let me just show you a few stories. You get a feel for the indignation that is sweeping across Europe over the fact that Germany is saying we're going to close our border. And here is the Politico, the headline in Politico, which says, Germany's Scholz gets tough on border in bid to save political future. So already, as you would expect in most of the media, the issue is framed as a kind of political opportunism by Scholz. He's abandoning this principle, the Schengen principle, that you can just travel across Europe visa-free, even though as an asylum seeker, you're supposed to stay in the first country you come to. Those are the rules of asylum. But instead, obviously, it's been abused. It's abused in Europe, and of course, it's abused horrifically in the United States. So Germany's Olaf Scholz move to establish new border controls risks generating an EU rift. And then it says the announced measures, specifics of which have yet to be fully disclosed, have sown confusion and alarm among Germany's neighbors, who fear the ramifications for Europe's border-free zone, the so-called Schengen area, and the knock-on hit to the European Union's economy. And then says Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk sharply criticized the German plans in Warsaw. If German leaders follow through on tighter controls, it would lead to the de facto suspension of the Schengen Agreement on a large scale. See, countries like Poland basically just dump this kind of surplus population onto Germany. So when Germany says, well, we're not going to do this anymore, we're going to close the border, you can't keep dumping these asylum seekers on us. On the contrary, we're going to return asylum seekers to you. This is naturally causes a great deal of strain among other European states. So Tusk says, well, how dare Germany say that they're not going to look after everyone, that they're not going to become the kind of the go-to welfare agency for the world. Members of the conservative CDU have been pushing Scholz's government to turn back asylum seekers attempting to enter Germany from other EU countries, a move that would likely create a domino effect across Europe, experts say, with other countries closing their borders to asylum seekers too. They would close their borders simply once they know, hey, we can't dump these people on Germany. They're going to close the borders themselves. Well, that means we have to look after them. We have no intention of looking after them. And so therefore, it's going to have a chain reaction across Europe. And then you think, well, gee, why didn't somebody think of that earlier? Knowing that that is exactly how everyone would respond. Well, if Germany is not going to take them, we certainly aren't going to take them. Ministers in the coalition government have instead advocated implementing fast-track procedures to deport asylum seekers to other EU countries deemed responsible for processing their claims. In other words, to act in accordance with international law. The problem is it never happens. That's why we have these murders that are carried out in Germany. It's nearly always an asylum seeker whose asylum application has been rejected by court after court, and who's basically facing deportation, is the one who goes on a rampage and starts killing innocent Germans. And naturally, Germans are a little bit upset. I mean, they've been generous enough in providing food and shelter to a would-be asylum applicant. But obviously, since the person is not really eligible for asylum, this is a kind of a threat to the German legal system, which is that, well, if you reject my asylum application, I might go on a rampage and kill lots of people. You don't want that to happen, do you? So you better just grant me my asylum. And here we have, well, I hope we have. This is the Guardian headline, "The End of Schengen, a Tragedy." The end of Schengen. Germany's new border controls put EU unity at risk. Critics say tightened land border checks, a transparent bid to appease the far right. It's always to appease the far right that breaches free movement rights. There are no free movement rights. You don't have any rights when you kind of barge into another country and demand basically the hospitality of that country. You don't really have any rights. So this is again completely mischaracterized. And then it says, this is the BBC. Neighbors criticize German move to extend border controls. German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser explained the expanded controls would protect against the, quote, acute dangers posed by Islamist terrorism and serious crime. So yeah, Islamist terrorism, we had, that recent killing in Solingen, with the three at the Diversity Festival, that was claimed, ISIS claimed that this was, their doing. But the serious crime is, of course, this constant sexual assault against the women in Europe, and country after country, women are complaining that they no longer feel safe in their major cities. So that's when she talks about the serious crimes. Under her plan, put to 16 German states, police would check whether an asylum seeker had already sought protection in another EU country and swiftly start proceedings to send them back if they had. So, again, in accordance with international law, that's what's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to go shopping for which country would you like to live in. Do you want to enjoy the Hague, Amsterdam, Paris, or Berlin and Munich, and take your pick. Now, again, any skeptic would say, I'll believe it when I see it. She would check whether an asylum seeker had already sought protection in another EU country and swiftly. I don't think nothing happens very swiftly in the legal system. It just grinds its way through. Swiftly start proceedings to send them back if they had. Now, incidentally, it is driven by concern about the far right. I mean, these articles in Politico and The Guardian and so on are not wrong. That's the only reason Scholz has made this about turn, that they got to do something about this uncontrolled migrant situation, is these disastrous election results. And so far, these populists have been located in the former German Democratic Republic. They haven't really made any substantial inroads in the West, but that can change. Things can change very quickly in politics. And these results, which are very good for the Alternative für Deutschland party, they could, in no time at all, spread to the West. And there are federal elections taking place in Germany within 1 year. So, I think that they have good reason to be very concerned. And however, did I miss this? Right. Okay, so then we got to Poland's prime minister was in no doubt. This is Tusk was in no doubt that the measures were triggered by the internal German political situation and not our policy towards illegal migration at the borders. Poland has faced a surge of illegal migrant crossings over its borders with Belarus since 2021, which it considers a part of a hybrid war waged by both Belarus and Russia. Many of the migrants head for Germany. That is this complete non sequitur. They bring up Belarus, Russia, Putin. Nothing to do with what we're talking about. What we're talking about here, she said, Islamist terrorism and serious crime. There's nothing to do with anyone coming in from Belarus. This was always a kind of a red herring to get everyone, juiced up about these horrible Russians and Lukashenko, as if that's the real migrant problem. Whereas the real migrant problem was obviously the million or so who have come from Ukraine, but also the mass migration from the Middle East and North Africa. Donald Tusk told a meeting of Polish diplomats in Warsaw he would ask for urgent consultations with all the countries affected. European Commission spokeswoman Anita Hipper said any reintroduction of border checks had to be done in line with the Schengen Code. So while Germany's measures were possible, those controls must be necessary and proportionate. In Austria, where the far right is leading the opinion polls ahead of the 29th of September elections, Interior Minister Gerhard Karner said that he had instructed the head of the police not to take anyone back who had been rejected by Germany. There is no leeway. Well, I'm not sure how you can just say I'm not going to take anyone back. If they are registered as asylum seekers in Austria, then they have to be that you have to take them back. That's the law. I mean, you can't. So he says we're not taking anyone back. Of course, no one wants to take anyone back. They're absolutely happy. Good, we don't have to pay for them. Let Germany pay for them. So we're not taking anyone back who has been rejected by Germany. Wow, you don't have much choice in the matter. And then here, this is the Daily Mail. Europe's fury as Germany tightens its borders. Neighbors say they won't, uppercase won't, take back rejected migrants. You say, look at this. They say we won't take them back. You have to take them back. I mean, this is always funny. You know, Trump always likes these stories about how all these migrants that come into the United States through Mexico, through Central America. And when Trump turned to them and say, well, you got to take them back. And they said, no, we're not taking them back. They said, well, you got to take them back. No, we're not doing it. And then Trump basically said, well, that means we're cutting off all economic assistance for you. And then according to Trump, anyway, they say, oh, okay, fine, we'll take them back. I don't know whether the story is necessarily true, but it is true that countries facilitate migration. They allow the free passage of migrants, of fake asylum seekers to Germany. And then they say, well, we're not going to take them back. So we won't take back rejected migrants and declare Berlin's plan to stem tide of asylum seekers and Islamist terror a threat to free movement. And then Germany's introduction of strict controls on all its land borders to crack down on migration and Islamist terrorism has prompted anger from its European neighbors who are loath to accept migrants turned away by Berlin. Interior Minister Nancy Faeser of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's struggling Social Democrat Party yesterday announced that harsher restrictions would be implemented across Germany's 2,300-mile land border from September the 16th. The scheme, which will last months before review and enable authorities to reject more migrants directly at German borders, represents a significant extension of controls introduced last year on Germany's borders with Poland, the Czech Republic, and Switzerland. So although they've introduced this, it doesn't seem to make any real difference. There's still an enormous number of asylum seekers in Germany. There's still this spate of murders, stabbings, and sexual crimes. Now borders with Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, France, and Austria will also be subject to the restrictions. The German government's drastic move is the first time that controls have been placed on all of the country's borders since the creation of the Schengen area in the 1990s. Many European countries are supportive of more stringent EU-wide border restrictions to curb immigration into the bloc, but they are less enthused by Germany's declaration it will start turning migrants back to neighboring nations. Well, yeah, the point is, and this was the issue that Viktor Orban raised back in 2015, which is, well, how about you create proper borders around the EU, so the EU will make sure that people are not just pouring into the continent. And the EU said, no, we can't do that. And then, so Orban then built essentially a barbed wire fencing around Hungary. Now, Germany, which opposed Orban's plan, is now, I mean, it's not building a barbed wire, but it's more of saying, nobody comes into the country anymore. I mean, basically, we're kind of ending the whole visa-free travel. We had the Schengen area. So in effect, I mean, they haven't built a barbed wire, but in effect, they're saying, nobody comes in. But again, you got the situation where, because of Europe's porous borders, people can just simply get into Europe, and then once you're in, you can just make your way to Germany and put in your asylum application. Or you can, you put in your asylum application in Italy and then make your way to Germany. But again, it's it is the consequence that Europe hasn't done anything proper about its external borders. Austrian authorities have already declared that they will not accept any migrant that Berlin attempts to force back across the border without a formal agreement. There's no room for maneuver here. This is the Austrian foreign minister speaking. I have directed the head of the federal police to not allow any returns. Austria will not accept any persons rejected from Germany. If Germany rejects them, but if they came from Austria, then Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk slammed the measures as unacceptable, saying his country would consult with other nations impacted. These kinds of actions are unacceptable from Poland's point of view. Tusk said in Warsaw, rather than greater controls of our borders, Poland needs greater participation of countries, including Germany, in guarding and securing the European Union's external borders. Well, how about doing that then? Rather than preoccupying yourself with these fake issues like the migration through Belarus. And here's a little map, and you can see the problem. And that's very nice of the Daily Mail to provide this little map of where people are coming, from where people are coming into Germany. So they're coming from Austria. That's so this is, I think, 2023. So you got look at these little balloon. So Austria, with this speech balloon, we will not take back rejected migrants. So that's they're saying 17,750 from Austria. Czechia, threat to Schengen. It's another balloon. And then I guess that's the Netherlands. The sooner the better. And then so because they're just pouring into Germany from everywhere: France, Belgium, Netherlands, Switzerland, Austria, Czechia, Ukraine. And then you have the Balkan route, which is a very popular route to get to Germany. And but of course there is also the route across the Mediterranean, and that's through Italy. And so that's the situation in Germany now. I don't take this too seriously. Maybe wrong, but the German political establishment is so riddled with a kind of multicultural liberalism, diversity. It's going to be very hard to get the German courts to move, reject asylum applications. I mean, they've done some, but it's going to be hard for them to do it en masse. It's going to be very hard for them just to deport people. They don't like doing that. And this whole process of rejecting asylum applicants at the borders, which is what Germany is now advocating, I think this is going to be challenged within all the EU courts. And I don't know whether Germany really has the stomach to confront the EU courts and be deemed to be intolerant and xenophobic, racist, whatever. But nonetheless, it's interesting just the impact that all the multivariant crises are having on Germany, the economic crisis, the industrial crisis, its political military crisis in Ukraine, and then, of course, the migrant crisis. And it's really causing political upheaval. And, Germany now seems even abandoning this core policy of the Schengen visa-free zone. So anyway, that's the update on what's happening in Germany. We'll be following this obviously a fast-moving story, and then of course we have the elections coming up on in Brandenburg on September the 22nd. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.